Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Another glorious moment. Good morning, Glenn.
Hey, Mikey. Good morning. Morning. How you doing, Chief?
Good. Hey, shout out to Brian today. Hey, Brian, how you doing, my friend?
Brian at Audio High, Chicagoland.
He's waving. He's over there keeping us sounding good and professional. And
he's our techno barista.
You know what I'd like, and I'm putting him on the spot now, but so for those of you at home that are quicker than Brian, go into your imagination and think for a second that the background noise you're hearing is from a gym. You know, weights clinging and clanging, and because I feel like we're in the gym most times I get together with you, Glenn. You're my personal trainer.
The sober gym, man.
Yeah, the sober gym, and you're. So I hear metal clinking. I feel sometime before this episode's done, we'll be hearing some metal clinking out there. Brian's not going to be outdone with.
That's right.
He'll be able to step up to that request.
Right. So, hey, Mike, I just want to jump in. Thank all the people that are reaching out to us from social media.
Oh, good call.
We're on two primary platforms. One is Instagram. We're still learning, so we're putting some content up there. We're still figuring it out, and we probably always will be. But our Instagram is Sober.Coffee Podcast. All one word, Coffee Podcast. So it's Sober.Coffee Podcast. And then our Twitter, I think they call them handles, is at Sober.Coffee Pod, P-O-D.
So it's not at Biden1.com?
At what?
I don't know.
That's funny. And then if you'd like to email us, our show's email is podcast at Sober.Coffee.
Yep. Awesome.
All right, got the housekeeping out of the way. Let's get down to business. What are we talking about?
I don't know. Let me see. How about more, M-O-R-E, but done a little slingy. Momentum.
Oh, momentum. I love momentum.
No, not momentum.
Oh, momentum.
Momentum.
All right.
Yeah, like I don't know what a momentum is, but I want more of it.
We want of mentum.
I want more of momentum.
Man, that's a good one. So what are you thinking about?
Well,
Tee us up.
Yeah, I mean, this one's pretty simple. For me, there are 5-6 things I do every day that I know are a must. Yeah, that are a must. 5 or 6 things that I know are an absolute must for me every day. I kind of check them off when I go to bed at night. Did I do these 6 things? Do I get them done every day? No, but pretty darn regularly I get them done.
Yeah, it's funny when you say you do them every day. What I have found, because I have stuff that I do and I look forward to just kind of kicking them around. I'll scale them down to like the top 3 or top 4. But what I've noticed is it's a lot harder to start a new habit, right? You do it on day 1, and then you do it on day 2, and then you do it on day 3, and remind yourself, and to keep that momentum going. But what I have found is going backwards, right? It's so much easier because if I forget to do one thing one day, it's so much easier the next day to forget to do it too.
Sure.
So a lot of these for me are, and for you too, are habits at this point because we've done them so long. But still, life gets in the way at times, and I might not be able to do one of them.
Yeah.
But then it amazes me how quick it just goes away.
Yeah.
It's like going to the gym, right? If you go to the gym and every day you work out, all of a sudden if you don't go to the gym for a week,
right,
you're like puts you back 4 months.
Sure.
With strength and whatever.
But it's got to be
endurance.
But it's got to be driven by some desire. You're going to the gym because you either want to beef up, lose weight, get healthier, get your cards work.
So I love that. I think it's fueled by passion, purpose, intention,
or just raw desire.
Right.
But whatever it is, I'm a big believer that, and my whole life, it's always been. I look at the momentum of achievement, the momentum that's needed to achieve something. And I think of it as simply as riding a bike. You know, if I'm riding a bike down the block and I pedal, and I love that you said, you know, to start out riding the bike, you know, those first couple pushes are hard, right? Then the next pushes after that become a little less, but you got momentum. If I just stopped pedaling and just coasted, and I ultimately would come to a small, slow crawl, and then I would stop, and I would fall, and that would be painful. And
so using that analogy, coasting for a short period of time
is okay
because it still gets you somewhere. You're still going somewhere. You're still on the road, right? But if you stop for an extended period of time,
you're gonna fall.
As we just said, you're right.
Yeah, there's no two ways about it. You're going to fall.
So it reminds me of physics. You know, back in high school, it reminds me of physics. You know, a body in motion stays in motion.
No, there you go.
Body at rest stays at rest.
Love it. So for me, and I'd like to hear what you do to keep your momentum going. But my 5 things a day. Maybe we'll go back and forth. I'll give you one. You give me one. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So. Number 1 for me is hit a meeting up. And that could be as simple as grabbing a coffee with 2 other alcoholics and just talking about our sobriety. Hitting a meeting up, going to a 12-step recovery meeting every day, once a day. You know, we live in a big metropolitan area. There's thousands of meeting opportunities every day. There's no excuse not to be able to make a meeting. I can make meetings and I do at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., all the way up to 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 12 p.m., everywhere in between.
Right. So what do you say to somebody that says, because actually I just heard this week.
Okay.
Guy says, hey, look, oh, man, it takes me, you know, that meeting is an hour away.
Right.
What do you say about that?
Well, 2 things. First of all, it's a great hour for growth. It's a great hour for growth. There's such a thing called this. I don't know if it's going to stick, but it's called cell phone. You can actually communicate while you're mobile.
No.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's going to stick, but it's a new technology. I just got one. They're amazing.
Awesome.
And number 3 is, guess what? There's a whole new world of Zoom out there. Plug in there. I mean, we've just gone from thousands of meeting opportunities to millions of meetings opportunity.
You know, it reminds me of this guy. In fact, he was running one of the rehab programs that I was in, and he shared a story. You know, because guys were complaining about how long it took to get to meetings. He's like, well, first of all, you know, we've heard stories of guys driving 3 hours to get a case of beer, right?
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
good point.
I mean, the stuff that we would do to drink, but he was in Africa. And he's like, Glenn, I needed a meeting. He goes, there was one day I traveled 10 hours, you know, across these plains to get to a meeting.
Okay, that's impressive.
You know, so, you know, I think, you know, hey, you know, sometimes what you want takes a little bit of effort.
Yeah, right. Good point.
And I love your thought. Hey, listen to stuff on the way. Talk to somebody on the way. You know, make some business calls on the way. Whatever you got to do. You know, but in today's world, an hour is nothing.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Okay, give me a push.
Right,
give me some momentum.
So I've actually broken these down into 2 sections.
Okay.
So the one section of things I do every day, and we've talked on one of our episodes. I think it was the relapse episode, where I share 23 things a day, a month, a week that I do to stay sober. But for this, I've whittled that down.
Okay.
Right? So we're in an 18-minute coffee instead of a 4-hour coffee.
But these are musts. I mean,
these are
on your radar.
These are top 3.
Okay.
Right? So I've broken down into 2 sections. One is top 3 things I do so I don't relapse.
Okay.
Right? And the second section is the top 4 things I do to fuel my growth.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So maybe to your bicycle, the top 3 is keep me from going backwards.
Sure.
And the next section keeps me going forward. So one of my anti-relapse one is, and I do this daily, I recommit to the January 6th Thought for the Day reading. And that is everything I do today, everything I do in my life will focus on staying sober today. I will not let anything get in that way. And I really commit to that. Like, my sobriety is the most important thing in my life. actually, and people may dispute this, I think it's more important than my relationship to God. Because if I don't stay sober, I don't have that relationship with God.
Right.
So the most important thing I do every day is stay sober.
So you do you physically read January 6th out of Thought for the Day, or do you,
most days?
Yes. Or you just know it. It's committed.
No, most days I do. Some days I don't, but the days I don't, I still reflect on it.
You reflect on it
And commit to it.
And just in the morning, at night?
In my morning meditation.
Morning meditation.
Yep.
Thank you. Beautiful. Next thing for me is 3 to 5, I call them tech touches. Again, using this newfound technology, the cell phone. So either calls or texts, 3 to 5 a day. I've either got to reach out to somebody who I'm helping recover or somebody who's helping me recover. And then there's those tweeners, right? These are just guys and gals that are just kind of my friends that I've made in the program that I just want to stay in touch with. 3 to 5 a day, because I feel if I don't keep that line of communication open, and I've got over 100 numbers in my phone. But just
overachiever.
It's just that important. So
that's awesome.
If you ask people for their number, I don't use them all. I don't call everybody 100 calls a day, but I'll touch 3 to 5 people a day. I think that's really, really important. See if I can help and listen to them how they can help me.
Right. So you do that to help you. Did you ever stop and think how that might be helping their day?
I would hope so. I would say that 9 times out of 10, I'm picking up that phone to be an encourager. It's just, I'm looking to encourage somebody else's journey. But, boy, they end up encouraging me every single time.
I love that. All right, so mine is I commit, work, and live the 12 steps.
Okay.
Every day.
Commit, work, and learn.
I commit to the 12 steps. I work the 12 steps, both with myself and with others. And I live the 12 steps.
Live and not learn. Gotcha. How does that play out practically for you? Do you stop? Will you stop in a situation and go, "Oh, that's a reflection of needed step work, step number 4, step number 6, whatever." Yeah.
So as I've worked the steps, I have a hyper awareness of how I live. I used to do page 86. Where, at night we do the following, right? We reflect on our day. And I used to say, okay, let me think about my day. I did this. And it was very aware and conscious, right? So then I said, okay, I did this. And so either in real time or the next day, I would make my amends or work to correct it. Right. So I did that long enough and I was aware enough. So now I can do it, most of it in real time. Right. So, let's just use my wife. She rocks, and 92% of the time I'm great. 8% of the time, hey, I go back to the old Glenn. I got some pretty snide remarks. I got some pretty selfish comments. But I clearly recognize in real time when I do it, and I say, hey, babe, time out.
Time out. There are flags on the field.
Yeah, let me come over, give you a hug. And I make fun of myself, and I'm still working at this, and my favorite line is, hey, what I said I meant, but I just should have said it a different way. Like, I can't totally surrender, and I'm like, hey, you're right, and walk away. Hey, the point I was making, Mikey, that's a valid point, but man, I should have said it a different way.
Yeah, right. Got it.
So I'm very aware of it, and I apologize in real time for most of it, but I still do page 86 at night.
Beautiful.
And there are times that things slip through, but it keeps me on that path of momentum, of living better in sobriety.
Right. So page 86, just for those that might be kind of new to sobriety, referring to the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, page 86 kind of frames out how you should start your day, how you should kind of end your day. I mean, the book it's a textbook. I mean.
Yeah, it's so funny because, I've talked to people about the big book and they think I'm talking about the Bible.
Yeah, right.
Right. And then
the big book.
And then like page 86 is like,
yeah, right.
King Ezekiel did whatever, and they're like, I don't get it.
He begot somebody.
Yeah, I'm like, right. Exactly. I'm like, wrong big book.
So number 3 for me is any service, sobriety related or not. I've got to serve somebody specifically during the day, and that goes beyond just holding the door open. That's easy, that's just easy stuff. But can I really step up? And sometimes service is simply taking one of those 3 to 5 tech touches a day and expanding it out and giving that person a half hour so that they can vent or we can discuss a problem they're having. But service opportunities, if you pay attention, are there for the pickings. I mean, they're there all around you if you're open and paying attention to it. I try and find some service to do. I don't care if it's to somebody else in sobriety and recovery or not.
Yeah, so service, I think, and I really believe that is the secret sauce to living.
I know.
I really believe that, and I mean, hey, when I started serving, it was so hard. I had to get outside of myself. I was always self-serving, and I was really good at serving my own feelings, desires, and wants. But to put those aside and serve somebody else, I have found that's one of the secrets to life.
Yeah,
and I have found that's one of my purposes. So, a couple things I do, and this is, I love how you said outside of, outside of recovery people,
yeah.
Right? Because I consider myself a servant, throughout my entire day. I start first thing in the morning. First thing I do is I serve my wife coffee.
Literally.
I serve the coffee. I literally make it. I get up, 4:30-ish, 5, and I'll go down and I'll make her coffee and I'll bring her coffee upstairs while she's still in bed. I'll put it on the nightstand. And then I go back downstairs and I make lunches for everybody. I make her lunch, and I make kids' lunches. And it's not just slapping 2 pieces of bread and a piece of bologna. Nothing wrong with that, but I really put myself into them, and I make them almost gourmet lunches. I make my wife a salad for lunch that you could serve in one of the finest steakhouses. Mm-hmm. But I really use that as a purpose and passion. And it's funny because it's hard to be pissed off at somebody,
yeah, right,
and to be really bent at somebody while you're serving them coffee.
Sure,
it just doesn't work the same way in the brain.
Right.
So it really puts me in a really cool mindset to start the day that, hey, I am making a choice to be committed to my wife, to my family, to my kids. And by showing this, by doing this serving action, I'm letting them know, hey, I dig you. I think you guys are cool. I'm committed to you guys. So every day they know, hey, I come down, my lunch is made,
yeah.
And they open it up and it's like, this is a pretty cool lunch.
And sometimes they don't do that, but you keep on showing up anyway, putting their lunches together. And sometimes you probably don't get the acclimate or... 1 out of 100. Right.
But
right.
That's a good training lesson that I don't do it for the accolades anymore.
Right,
sure.
If
the old Glenn, I mean, if I did it and you didn't say thank you 4 times with a big smile on your face, as big as I wanted you to have it,
you got attitude.
I was bent.
Yeah, you got attitude.
Now, you just do it.
And I'm no Webster, but I think somewhere in the definition of service, it's got to be something that, like, for example, if you needed a ride to the store and I was going right by your house anyway and gave you a ride, yes, that's service, but it really didn't cause me any discomfort to provide that service. If I'm going the exact opposite way, you say, Mike, I really need a ride to the store. It's really important. And I go do that. So I don't know what, I guess it's splitting hairs. But
no,
I think sometimes it's pain. If there's pain associated with your effort, I think you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I think of my daughter, and I told my daughter, I said, hey, I mean, she's so focused on my stepdaughter. She's so focused on, which I call her my daughter, but, so focused on doing the right thing. And I told her, I said, hey, you're in the game. You're trying to get better. I said, I will pick you up anytime, anywhere. And there's times I'm in bed at 10 o'clock at night, and I get a text, hey, I need a ride,
mm-hmm.
And I jump right to it.
Right.
But I'm telling you, and I just like to underline this because people say a lot of things, and I don't know what to do right here in this moment to express the value and benefit of becoming a servant for somebody else, not just in the 12 steps, in life. I have been rewarded 100 times over in ways that I couldn't imagine because I am less self-serving today than I was in the past.
Awesome stuff, Glenn.
I get more giving it away than I ever tried trying to get it.
Yeah, it's the paradox of life.
Yep.
You got a list point?
Yeah, so something I do every day to prevent relapse and make sure I stay sober is I plan my day. Again, page 86 in the big book. Upon awakening, plan your day, right? And I learned this for 4 months. I did it, became a habit when I was in my 4-month program, the end of 2014, and I still do it. I wake up, I look at my calendar, what am I going to do today, right? We've talked about triggers and traps. Are there anything today that I need to be aware of, right? Is there anything today? I mean, I really relentlessly plan my day, and it also includes accountability, right? And especially if I'm going into a challenging time, if I got a challenging meeting, what am I going to do? What guardrails am I going to place around me to get through that situation? I'm really purposeful about planning my day, which does include accountability.
Well, I think it's interesting you use the word purposeful because I think you're proactive about your own purpose, and I've noticed that in you since day one. You have a purpose. Your activity supports your purpose. That's great stuff. Number 4 for me is, some growth, right? So I try and get some growth in every day. This is personal stuff. Read, listen, watch. I don't care if it's AA, mental health. I'm reading Emotional Sobriety by Berger. Great book, right? Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox. Drop the Rock by Bill P. and et cetera, last initial people. Great stuff. But it could be anything. It could be physical improvement or just growing my brain somehow. I just feel that if I'm not growing, I'm stagnating. And I think the brain needs to be worked, the body needs to be worked, and I just, does that make sense?
Oh, it totally does. And it's funny because as you're chatting, I'm thinking of the things that I do to grow. And as I said, I've got 4 of them outlined here. But one of the things I do, I totally agree on the brain, right? One of the first things I do first thing in the morning, within the first hour, wake up, I have this, and I'm not promoting this site or whatever, but I got this little thing I do called Block-A-Do.
Block a who?
Block-A-Do.
Block-A-Do, okay.
Block-U-Doko.
Block-U-Doko,
and,
okay.
And there's a daily challenge, and, you got to put, it's almost like a Tetris type thing. You got to, arrange the blocks and clear the screen, right? So there's a daily challenge, and I do it every single day, and I've done it every day for the last 2 years. I have not missed a day. In fact, they track. There was not a day that I've missed in the last 2 years. And I look at that as it's a way to turn my brain on, right? It gets my brain going and thinking and focusing and paying attention, right? Instead of just getting out of bed and just kind of wandering around. Now I've just accomplished that. Now I'm focused. I also do daily meditation, daily prayer, primarily in the morning. I do most of it in the morning, but there's times I do things like that throughout the day, right? When I'm cutting the grass, sometimes I'll listen to really cool music, and because I, wear headphones and I blast the music, and sometimes I listen to good things. Part of the things are, helping me grow my business and my business acumen, but most of the time it's focused on spiritual things. There's some stuff on YouTube, just search spiritual motivation. And there are some rock star stuff on there that really gets me in that game, gets me fired up and keeps me fresh, for that growth. Also on growth, there was a guy in the program a couple years ago. We were doing a spiritual 10-week, kind of a book series type thing, and at the end he goes, okay, he goes, hey, this was really good, exploring God and all that stuff. But how do I, where do I go from here? And I can remember looking across the table from him. I think you might have been there. I remember looking across the table at him. I'm like, dude, you just got to stay in the pool.
Stay in the pool.
And I had no idea what that meant. But in the moment, I do now, but in the moment, you can't learn how to swim by sitting in the bleachers.
Right.
You got to get in the pool. Now, what does that mean, right? So for me, I go to a church and connected to a church and go to a church and I'm involved in that church that feeds me spiritually. Mm-hmm. Secondly, there's several, not a lot. I have 3 online churches that I listen to throughout the week that feed me spiritually, that get me thinking about things in the right direction. I'm also part of a men's group, where we have a bunch of guys, half of them or more are in the program, half are not. Sometimes they tolerate us, because we use
references.
We use our program speak, but we're learning stuff there, man. We're pushing, we're in the pool of learning and growth.
Right. Well, that was my last bullet as well is lastly, I find time to stay connected with my higher power, certainly really it's not elaborate. It's not, it's not anything extremely structured. But I stay in constant contact during the day, thanking my higher power for where I'm at and always asking for grace to continue down this path.
I love it. And all that stuff helps me with my head trash. It helps me get outside of myself, all the head trash that goes on, and keeps me focused in the right way. Yeah, man, I love momentum.
I love momentum.
For me, and kind of a way to capsulize our little session here, a little coffee chat for me is, it is easier for me to keep it rolling than it is to get started.
Right.
So as I look at my main push for sobriety in September 2014, that was hard. Because I didn't know what I was doing. Stopping drinking, right? All the crap in my head still there. Now what? That's my favorite line. Now what? But as I stayed in this program and kept coming back and working the 12 steps, of Alcoholics Anonymous, for me today, I need to keep it rolling. And that is so much easier. Sure. I see people go, we just had a guy this week go back out and just painful relapse. I've been there. And to start over again, it's a challenge. It's worth it.
Right.
But and so when I think of today, the times I think about drinking, because I still do, we've talked about that.
Right.
I just think, man, it's Glenn, no. Just suffer better through this situation. You'll get through it. It'll pass in 4 minutes. It'll pass in 4 hours, 4 days. It's going to pass. Factually, I've proven it's going to pass. But it's easier for me to stay on this path and keep that momentum going and keep doing the right things to keep that momentum going than to start all over again.
That's right. I agree. And I'll just throw out there, and we'll wrap up. You don't have to speed, but you can't stop.
It's just like that bike. Hey, it's okay to coast once in a while.
It's okay to coast. Just don't stop.
Just don't get off the bike.
That's right. Hey,
I love it, man.
It's great session. Thanks.
I love it. Keep that momentum going.
All right, man. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.